I want to speak to you today about a project that we have at the University of Cluj-Napoca, and that is called Note-Taking and Notebooks as Channels of Medieval Academic Dissemination Across Europe, or as we simply always call it, Nota. And because also it's the Latin etymology for note-taking, and this is how we prefer to call our project simply, and like with this acronym. This is our acronym here about Nota. It's from a medieval manuscript, cursive writing, and this is the abbreviation for the word that we have, Nota. What is this project about? I will try to speak to make like an introduction. We thought of the importance of note-taking, and because they play note-taking such an important and essential role in how we record, understand, and process data. And of course, because we thought that culture is disseminated and produced in this way, by note-taking, and what is left of those notes, and this is why we thought it's important to study them. Students attend lectures, they jot down what is being said in class, and scientists log their empirical observations. Also, travelers maybe keep journals, authors of all kinds file their impressions. And also, we thought that it would be interesting to see how these notes are preserved and what may be use of them today from this point of view, how we may understand them, if there are similarities between how the students in the 14th, 15th century noted down stuff, and if we can see a similarity between the students and how do we note today these aspects. If there is a connection between memory and note-taking, how do we have this in mind, if they remember certain aspects better, if they are noted down, or if they use certain passages, authorities, and sources, and what is to be found in those specific notebooks. We have the ambition to demonstrate that the personal notebook is not a modern invention, actually, but that is rooted deeply in medieval academic practices. And so we think of notebooks, and we have like a taxonomy for them. The first type of notebook has been identified as a reportatio, both present in the Faculty of Arts and also in the Faculty of Theology. There are some differences between these approaches, and for the Faculty of Arts, more theoretical work has been done on how to recognize a reportatio, what it is, and how students usually proceed to record that was being said and done in class. We also name this as first-order notes, the notes that have been taken exactly into the classroom. And however, when one has a reportatio that was produced in the Faculty of Theology, the secondary literature usually discusses the main artifact extensively without trying to infer more general characteristics of the practice or to explain it from a technical point of view. And the second type of note, or second-order notes, has also been identified mainly recently. These notebooks illustrate practice, but also practice of note-taking. And also these are to be studied, and we also want to see how is this practice done, if there are like more clean notes, or how are they to be seen from this point of view. But to summarize, I would like to say that we have certain criteria to establish the corpus, how we choose our manuscripts. We have a database that now consists more than 100 manuscripts. I also had a research stay, and I myself identified maybe, I don't know, I could say 10 manuscripts in Prague, in the Czech Republic, and one of them are very interesting. They have recomendaciones, and how the students spoke about finishing the bachelor studies, or in order to see the exact type of academic, how to say, the practice of academia in those times, like to be like a bachelor, but it's not like a bachelor license, but mostly like a presentation or a lecture to finish the course. How do we study and how do we keep our manuscripts? How do we choose them for the corpus? It has to have like a heterogeneous context. The pages have to be devised in further more zones, like you have to have pieces that are jotted and put down together. We have to find their university exercises like disputationes or questiones disputate in this sense. The manuscript have to have a university and academia context. We mainly search for them, those that are in the Faculty of Theology, because they are more complex and the student is more, how to say it, is more aware of what he's doing because it's another university educational level. So in this sense, we also have to have into consideration the provenance, as I said, the faculties of art, also the date of composition. We target only 14th and 15th century manuscripts. These are the ones that interest us. Our paper manuscripts, we do not work with parchment manuscripts because from this paper has in a way democratized, if I can say that, the use of knowledge and science. Paper made education more accessible from this point of view because it was cheaper and everybody had access to it, the ones that could afford it as well. And in this sense, we also think if the owner was a sententiary person, the one that had a commentary on the sentences of Peter the Lombard, that is very important for us. If we could identify him as a sententiary, as a one that had a commentary on the sentences, and if the manuscripts are autographers or partially autographers, if we can identify the person that wrote it, and that is of course of importance for us because we want to know if we can identify the person and to see if he was a student, if we check in the codex if he was a student and what was the main aspect and of interest. The manuscript that I will be talking today and having in consideration is a manuscript that we have been working since the start of our project in 2021. It's a manuscript of Etienne Godet. Is the author. He was born approximately in 1310, 1315 in a family of academic tradition. He arrives in Paris around 1340. He begins his studies at the Faculty of Arts, then continues them at the Faculty of Theology. He's a fellow theologian at the College of Navarre, and he will leave after a few years in order to continue his studies at Sorbonne. He becomes a doctor of theology in 65-67, and after that there are some political academic movements arising in 1386. He will abandon the University milieu and move to Lille, where he will pass away at the ending of the year 1391 or the beginning of the year 1392. It is not, we don't have this information of in his biography very well stated. We have this author, we have his manuscript. The manuscript is to be found in Bibliothèque Nationale de France. It's from Paris, Latin 16408, as we call it, or 408. And also, we have 5 manuscripts that are of the same hand. This is how we were able to, well, actually, Zenon Kaluza was able to say that this is the writing of Godet and this manuscript belongs to him. And because before, Palémon Glorieux said that the manuscript might belong to Jean de Falisca, and that is a different aspect. And we were able also to check this aspect. We have these 5 manuscripts of the same hand. 2 manuscripts are of the hand of Etienne Godet, confirmed because they have this note of provenance, and the name is Stephanus Galdetti, and those are the ones listed there that you can see. And also Kaluza states these 3 arguments, that we have the writing of Godet from the manuscripts where we already have the note of provenance in the colophon, that the documents are made for him. We found 3 documents made for him, and that are biographical details that sustain the provenance. What is also interesting there in the last passage, in the last passages of the manuscripts, in the last part of the manuscripts, he also complains of the fact that the books that he was carrying, he lost them or someone stole them from them. This is why he quotes so badly the sources and the authorities from his memory. Of course, some sources, rarely we cannot find them. The details are lacking. of course, probably all of the biblical sources are stated from the memory, and also some of them are to be found, the most common ones, yes, but other ones may seem very also invented, and it's difficult. So, as I thought, in the 14th century, on paper support, Otieng Godet is writing in a cursive manner some notes of ideas and thoughts that interest him. He's trying to summarize aspects that pertain to different authorities in order to use them in his own interest, either as a spark for his own arguments and intellectual debates, key guiding points in unfolding his own academic exercises. These notes shall be reunited together later in time as a notebook preserved today, as I said, in Paris. This is a tabula that I've made. It's from the part where I am working, from the manuscript, is the one that I have transcribed. Is the tabula that has not been transcribed yet. I'm the one that discovered it. It's on the 60 verso, the folio, and I'm the one who worked on it. And it's important because it's different, because we have a tabula that is to be found on a verso. It was made later, afterwards. The main folios that have been written, the passages that start at 61 recto, this is what he said. Like, he speaks about mainly the debate is between what is the difference between sin, venial sin, and mortal sin, what arguments are to be found, and what definitions are to be made from this point of view. And he says whether one may sin and earn eternal life in the same time. There are some arguments that are pro and pro arguments how one may earn eternal life, but in the same time, if he commits a sin, who is the one that will judge him? Is God the judge? Is the other are judging him? Also, arguments against that questions, because this is the typical way in which the debates were stated in that time. So there are brought arguments against the question, some solutions against the question as well. The position regarding venial sin of Magistri Amandi, that is stated here in the third folio. Also, some authorities. He mainly quotes, of course, Augustine, but English authors like Buckingham, Bradwardine. These are the main focus points, speaking about the quiddity. And what is the quidditate peccati? What is the quiddity of sin? What is the essence of sin? What does it mean to act against the will and the will of God? And what is sin? What is rightfully follows if after sin rightfully follows eternal damnation? Or if this, and the problem is always, if you have committed a temporary act, how can you be punished eternally for something that you have committed in an instantiated moment in time, and if that is fair or not? Is it fair for you to deserve an infinite punishment for a singular act that you have committed in time? Also, he then goes lower to the fifth folio, where he speaks about the difference between venial and mortal sin. Some other arguments of Anselm, Altisiodorensis, another authority. Some premises regarding sin exposed by Bradwardine. Also the concept of demerito. He puts into balance merito and demerito, merit and being worthy and unworthy. Who deserves to be punished and who does not deserve to be punished according to what he has done. And this is how he continues. Also some arguments from Gregory of Rimini, possibly also Gregory the Great. And I would like to give some examples, not to be in time and not to speak too much of this aspect. And the examples that he gives and states, this is as I said, the tabula that I have. This is my transcription. You can see it more clearly here. And as I said, the question is if someone may sin venially and deserve in the same time eternal life. And venial sin and mortal sin, he says, both alienate the human being from God as source of good. If venial sin only trespasses against the established connection between man and God, mortal sin annihilates it completely, and the effect is damnation. What is the boundary between these two types of sinning? How much may one err at the intentional, factual level for a venial sin to become mortal? The error has to be understood as consent of the will or of the intellect. And these are the main leading questions that I have found to investigate the content present inside his notes. And hierarchically, of course, venial sin is inferior to mortal sin according to the Catholic doctrine. And in both cases, the moral agent prefers a lesser good to a greater good in a conscious manner. The choice takes place after a conscious act of deliberation, and both will and intellect collaborate into how to actualize this decision. From a temporal point of view, as I said earlier, one prefers an immediately lesser good in contrast to a greater good that is more distant in time or that may occur in the afterlife. Mm-hmm. And he states the example, there are many examples, of the case at folio 61 recto of the midwives of the Hebrew people from the Old Testament in Exodus 1, who have mortally sinned. This is the start of we have here the primo folio, and this is the start of the 61 recto that I was telling, and here you may see utrum quis simul possit peccare venialiter et mereri vita eterna. I don't know if you can see it clearly, but trust me, this is what it is, because I've worked on it a lot, and it almost made me jump out of the window when I first saw it. But after that, like now it's clear as daytime sometimes. But lucky us, I also like from a methodological point of view, I want to stress the fact that we also have a copy of this manuscript, some pages, not the complete manuscript, is Latin 16409. Thomas of Krakow is the author of this manuscript. And from folio 100 recto, we may compare this manuscript, and if we have difficulties, this one is more clear. It is a copy, it's like a second order note, and everything is more clear here for us. At least it's easier to see how it works. And this is the start, as you can see it, utrum quis simul possit peccare venialiter, with the abbreviations, but in more clear and more beautiful way to be said. And so I was saying that the example, the case of the midwives of the Hebrew people from the Old Testament, who have mortally sinned by lying in order to save the innocent newborn children from the wrath of the Pharaoh, but received a limited reward in via, because they have saved the children from death. In this context, lying is judged in comparison to the betrayal followed up by the infanticide, and is to be found morally acceptable as the minor evil. And also this, he continues, the mind has to be ordered to serve the law of God, but the body is inclined to be subordinated to the law of sin, stating the passage from Romans 7. And if one follows the first order, then the prize is eternal life. If one follows the subordination of the body, what the body dictates, then one is to be found in the situation of sinning venile. And the example is the following one, who offers charity and in the same time feels vanity about his action, although that person commits a morally good act, and an act to be praised for. Through the pride over-added to that act, you over-add pride to that act, merely only just by means of the intention to feel the pride for the good that you have done, one is to be found in the context of venial sin. And also, as I said, following the above-mentioned example of the midwives, Godin notes down the following idea. Who tells a lie in order to save an innocent person commits a venial sin for lying, but deserves eternal life due to the love, caritas, for his nearest one, due to the intention of helping and saving him. Who does not have the intention of following his own interest and immediate well-being, and the intention is oriented exclusively towards the good of the other person, he is in the situation of deserving the divine reward. And to summarize, because I think I have surpassed a bit my time.
Mm-hmm.
Not yet. No, not yet. Okay.
You have 3 more minutes.
Oh, thank you so much. Just wanted to say, and another funny example, like just to put it here because I have a bit of more time. Another example stating the difference between venial and mortal sin is regarding to ebriety and intoxication. Mm-hmm. And he says that if you drink once and it's a simple drinking, then it's okay, you are sinning venially if you overdrink. But if you do that and make it into a habit and you reach like 100 drinks and you surpass everything and you make it into a habit and you drink daily a lot, well, it's not okay, and you bring that. Of course, you then tend to sin mortally, because that is the aspect that leads you away from God. So yeah, everything is allowed as long as you still are doing the will of God, and if that path is not leading you away from God. And yeah, I would not want to insist on that. There is another example, and I don't really like this example, but I will state that maybe we can sort of put it onto a debate. It's an example from Augustine, from the Bono Congali, and he says that a woman, if the woman abuses the husband for the conjugal act, then she sins venially. But if it is with someone else and the man is not her husband, then she sins mortally, and that is very wrong. Or if, in this sense, she commits adultery, then that, of course, is a mortal sin. But it becomes venially if the abuse of the husband is made. Yes, just like that. And I found it very funny, because the other way around, I did not find such an example. So it's always the woman that's put into the situation. So, yes, the examples and study cases offered by the authorities and the personal argumentative structures from the manuscript are still linked to present-day questions about moral actions, as we have seen, good and evil acts, hierarchy of errors, and responsibility for erring, and deliberating when it comes to ethical aspects. So, and I thought that in a certain way, 14th century collections of notes and our nowadays philosophically notebooks may be easily mirrored into each other. Thank you very much. And these are the sources, the main sources that I have found in the pages, in the folios that I have transcribed.